Yeah, I like that music. Greetings, everyone, and welcome. Welcome. Yeah. And we're getting some feedback. Hey, welcome. I had some feedback there, and glad you're here. Glad you're here. We're going to talk about the 15 strangest things Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige ever said. Now, they are strange indeed. Let me get my camera. Brendana, the camera's still not fixed. I ordered a tripod and from last week where there was a markup attack. So let's see who's in the chat. Let's just see. I want to see who's here. Okay, now there were some things. Sounds like Form 13909 had something about COB, which is interesting. It's prescient because we're going to open with that. Yeah, you're going to hear some strange stuff tonight. Good evening, Wayne's World. And Psych on the Rocks. Wait, Psych on the Rocks there. Hey, everyone. Hey, how are you? Hi, Sherry. I like that tattoo. That's cool. Hello from West Virginia. Hello to you, Pam. Paul of Scotland. Hello to you, Paul of Scotland. Glad to see you here. Denise is here. Yeah, it's all craziness. And yes, everyone entering the chat, please provide your background checks. Yes, passports and only passports from Earth will be accepted. None from Martian implanting stations. See, I just thought I would do a compendium of strange things because Scientology's in the news in the court cases, and this is kind of fun. And I wonder if we should. So thumbnail looked like the Joker and the Riddler. Yeah, we have it did. So we have a lot of interesting stuff to cover. So I want to jump in. Scientology is homophobic, and the church likes to deny it. But I'm going to take you back through a little history to open with David Miscavige. Is he squeamish? Well, you look at the court record. This is an actual court record. This goes back to the 1990s and the ARS days, which is Alt Religion Scientology. It was an early BBS board. It's still around, Alt Religion Scientology. Oh, hi, Possibly Trouble. Glad to see you here. And so David Miscavige, squeamish? I think so. Something strange in Scientology, that is an understatement. The tooth fairy is more credible indeed, but surreality pervades all of Scientology. So let's start with David Miscavige. And now this is from a court record. Graham Berry was involved, Grady Ward. This is back a court case in the 1990s. I'm going to actually post the transcript of this. David Miscavige on record, one of the few times he's actually been deposed. And he actually ceded time to the other side so he could make this remark. And so we begin with David Miscavige, and I think this is now 1995-ish. So David Miscavige, quote, and this is in deposition, okay? This is lawyers. This is on the record, and I will post it on my blog and a link to it in the show notes. So David Miscavige, quote, wait a second. I'd like to note for the record that Mr. Ward here said he was doing TR 1.1, unquote. Now, Grady Ward is an early critic, along with Arnie Lerma. So this is Grady Ward. So that's who you know. So let's start it over. Okay, say, quote, wait a second. I'd like to note for the record that Mr. Ward here said he was doing TR 1.1. And I would just like that noted here. That is probably not understandable to someone who is not a Scientologist, but it is definitely an attempt to demean the religion of Scientology. And I'd like that noted for the record. This TR 1.1 refers to a writing by Graham Berry, where he states that he will start up a 1-1 club, including qualifications for this for non-homosexuals, is that there will be a public buggering of leaders of Scientology. Mr. Miscavige continues, buggering, of course, I think you know that it refers to sodomy, and that is, I understand what the 1-1 Club is. I think that's what Mr. Ward was stating that in reference to. I'd also like to state for the record, I believe I've taken a minute to state that I'm willing to give them an extra minute so that it doesn't come off their time. Mr. Ward, I have seen postings from him describing the various sexual acts that he has been engaged in with various male members of the Scientology religion, attorneys, and so forth. And again, I won't state here what that is, but he has already ruled he has already been ruled to be disgusting by the judge. Unquote. That's David Miscavige during a 1997 deposition after defendant Grady Ward had simply uttered TR 1.1. So there was they were making jokes about David Miscavige being buggered, is the old word. Buggery in the lash, as they called it in the British Navy in the 19th century. And so he wanted to actually get on the record that he objected to this sort of joking and degrading, that there would be a public buggering of Scientology leaders. So anyway, so I just thought that was funny that he actually has to bring that up in 1997. And this is a crack up. And just for the record, Mr. Miscavige was never, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, publicly buggered. Privately, I cannot say, but he didn't like jokes. He didn't like jokes about, he didn't like jokes about this. He didn't like it. So the fact that you would go on and even mention this kind of thing on the public record in a deposition that he actually ceded time, sort of a little squeamish there, can't take a joke. And so that's the first thing. Don't ever make jokes about this stupid, the stupid tripod has caused me more trouble. And but I have some setup issues here in my studio. And so David Miscavige will not allow you to take the name of yeah. So anyway, he went on the record with that, and that was really something. So anyway, when you see the actual there's actual legal record, it's just something that I wanted to know. That was a strange thing that David Miscavige did. I know we're getting the new tripod. I might buy a new camera, and so that's why I've been dragging my feet on this thing. I want to redo my studio. Okay, now L. Ron Hubbard from the Class 8 course, Lecture 10. L. Ron Hubbard says, quote, "There are certain things which make people ill, and that is when they get into certain zones and areas or positions which approximate the R6 position, such as a body lying in the rain with a rat below the crotch." Now, I did a Photoshop there. I think L. Ron Hubbard is speaking from personal experience. I think there was some time when he was in the Navy or after Dianetics had went bankrupt that he woke up just hungover with a rat below his crotch in the rain. Because I got to tell you, and ladies and gentlemen, I have never once woken up in an R6 position lying in the rain with a rat below my crotch. I don't think any of you have either. Make a note in the comment. Have any of you ever put one if you've never woken up in the rain with a rat below your crotch in the gutter? And two, if you have. It's just like, so I think this is kind of Ron. Now the R6 refers to all the implant religions. So except for Scientology, of course, L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige in Scientology considers all other religions on earth, TGAC, to be R6 implants, to all be implanted religions. So they're implanted to control you. sounds like he is describing sleep paralysis. No, well, maybe. Okay, let me take it back. Okay, no, it sounds like to me like he was shit faced and he woke up, because the only way you would get a rat lying below your crotch is if you passed out in the rain and you wake up with maybe said rodent or rodentia or more nibbling at your nether regions. This is such a weird quote. I don't think it's sleep paralysis. When he says rat, does that include ex-husbands? Well, that leads to some trouble, possibly trouble, because why would why would you be lying in the rain with your ex-husband below your crotch? You have some explaining to do, young lady, because I mean that that whole thing. I don't even want to know about it, but it's just it comes out in translations kind of funny, like maybe you were involved and you both had been. I don't know. I don't want to know about it. Okay, so I like this picture of L. Ron Hubbard in the rain, waking up, going, "WTF happened?" 1, 3, 3. There wasn't a selection, so all of the above happened. You did, or were hallucinating it. 1. Now you understand that I have to try. Yes, Paul, and I admire you for trying to wake up in the rain with a rat below your crotch. I salute you for trying. That's true RT. True RT. Scientology's pizza rat. Or maybe he meant reg, with a reg below your crotch. 1. Yeah. See, I didn't think many people would have had this particular life experience. There's been a few times when I was young, when I had a few too many drinks, but never, we'll never know. Yes, and we'll never know about possibly trouble in that whole thing either. And I don't want to know. But I thought that was funny how when you're like Schrodinger, Schrodinger's crotch rat multiverse. Oh, that's interesting. I love the metaphysics, because when we remove the box, when L. Ron Hubbard is lying in the rain under a box, and we open the box, only then will we know if there is a rat below his crotch or not. So apparently, in this particular universe, when the box was removed, Mr. Hubbard had the rat below his crotch. And it was an alive one, too. It was a living rat. So that was something kind of weird. Our next item. Now, people know, okay, let me set this one up. People know all about the Xenu story with the volcanoes and deep space planes. That in Scientology is called Incident 2 of OT3. But there's an earlier incident called Incident 1 of OT3. Incident 1 of OT3, which happens 4 quadrillion years ago. So Incident 2 of OT3 is the Xenu story. Incident 1, what is Incident 1? Well, let's take a look at it, because this is strange. Okay, so this is L. Ron Hubbard writes it, and this is verbatim quote from LRH. You can find it online. And he says, Incident 1, it occurs at the start of the track. That means the start of the universe. And L. Ron Hubbard said our universe began 4 quadrillion years ago, which is older than the age of our universe. But what does that mean when you're writing sci-fi, religion, and you're a cult? So this starts 4 quadrillion years ago. There's a loud snap. Boom. Loud snap. Louder than that. And then there's waves of light, which I've illustrated. Then a chariot comes out and turns right and left. Now, if you're in space, there's no orientation. So you're assuming at that point you've morphed into a thetan, and you know right from left, and you have a body that's right from left, or you have a map. So nevertheless, but the chariot comes out, turns right and left. A cherub comes out and blows horn and comes close to you. Why a cherub? I don't know. And then there's a shattering series of snaps. No crackles or pops, just a shattering series of snaps. And then the cherub fades back, that is to retreat. And then blackness is dumped on the Satan. This is incident 1, and apparently everyone went through incident 1 or not, I don't know. But this is incident 1. So now there you know, incident 1 is this mysterious incident, and incident 2 is Xenu. So that's the first implanting incident at the beginning of the universe, and now you know. So hi HD2. Mr. A, so nice to have you on the regular. Thank you. I play your videos during my wind down every day. Well, I'm glad to hear that, HD2. From what are you winding down from? Just curious. Yeah, but thank you. Not to be confused with incident fun, where everyone who was anyone got sticky at the bosun's party. more conduct. You know, there was a story on the ship where there was like a Mardi Gras. Like one night they just, I think it was New Year's on the Apollo, and everyone was allowed to get drunk, and there was like sexual activity, and just it was sort of their like it just went on the Apollo. And you know, L. Ron Hubbard, all the rules were suspended for one night, I guess, and there was drinking, debauchery, and things that were out tech, out ethics, but probably a lot of fun. So the feedback is Oron's Satan messing with the microphone. Oh yeah, that would be that loud snap. That would be the loud. Stupid YouTube didn't warn me playing catch up at 1.25x. Okay, well, good. I'm glad we have a mechanism whereby you can catch up. So anyway, that's incident 1 for any of you noobs. Okay, now this next thing, why a picture of C3PO? Well, I'll tell you. L. Ron Hubbard wrote, quote, and I'll do it in L. Ron Hubbard's voice. Satan doesn't look through his eyeballs. He has 2 little golden discs, one in front of each eye lens. These are not the lenses of the eyes, you see, but as you might say, mocked up energy. So, unquote. But I like Ron, when you do Ron Hubbard, you always have to start with these long pauses. So we're going to do that again. Satan doesn't look through his eyeballs, you see. He has 2 little gold discs, one in front of each eye lens. And as a matter of fact, that these are not the lenses of the eyes, but as you might say, mocked up energy. So this isn't a bulletin called Eyesight and Glasses, Professional Auditors Bulletin number 111, May 1957. The Professionals Auditor Bulletin used to be called PABs, for Professional Auditor Bulletins. So Hubbard here is saying that you don't really look through your eyeballs, that there's little gold discs in front of them. So they're not the lenses of your eye. So I kind of imagine like maybe C3PO is like a Satan in a robot body, because L. Ron Hubbard said you could be in a doll body or a robot body or any types of numbers of bodies. But just so you know, you're not looking through your eyeballs as a Satan. And that's just something Hubbard always called doctors medicos. So this is something the medicos falsely taught you. Your brain's just a switchboard. It's just a piece of meat. It doesn't mean anything, Hubbard said. So now you know, Hubbard claimed in Dianetics that you could get rid of your eyeglasses, you know, and so he's still obsessing with eyesight and glasses. And even though nowadays they just have dispensed with that, and in the Scientology literature, you see people with eyeglasses all the time. The Professional Auditors Bulletins from the 50s, I have a collection of them in PDF. They're very funny because he does stuff like this. I have to adjust my microphone. Hold on a minute. Like I said, I've got to like rework my studio, and I just have been busy. Oh, this is a bother. Okay, so yeah, they've kind of dispensed nowadays. They used to not like people in glasses, and then they just gave up on it. They just gave up on it. For example, in some recent literature, uh, auditors wanted. So this fellow, and I like to show the picture because he's a member of someone's family and they might recognize him. And I think this is from 2022, I believe. But auditors are wanted, and he has glasses. So, in addition to having golden discs through which he's looking, apparently the golden discs are contaminated or distorted, and therefore he must wear eyeglasses in addition to having the golden discs in front of his eyes. So isn't that curious? You would think if you had these golden discs, and that's something that, golden discs, that kind of goes back way back into some old esoteric views, some old esotericism, 19th century and even earlier. It's like the silver cord. So they've kind of dispensed with that, but now you know why Visine sometimes you're not really cleaning your eyeballs, you're cleaning the golden discs that are secretly there in front of your eyeballs. I keep Visine around, and I may remarket it as golden disc eye cleaner. Oh, Flight of New Heights. I'm looking at a magazine. I'm looking at an OT. Don't miss your brief breath in eternity. There, that was my brief breath in eternity. Anyway, there's plenty of pictures, and oh, how interesting. Basics, books, and lectures. Oh, this is not the one I was looking for. So, Nomads of the North, in their own words. Some of their literature is so same. Anyway, so the next thing, let's go. I'll find it. So there you go. Now you know the golden discs in front of your eye lenses. Now, this is a famous quote. It's bandied about, but I wanted to give it some context. And again, I'll be doing the voiceover of Ron Hubbard. Jim Meskimen never does it. He's a talented voiceover artist, but he won't go there because that would be joking and degrading. And he's an OT. So Hubbard says, quote, not smoking enough will cause lung cancer. If anybody is getting a cancerous activity in the lung, the probabilities are that it is radiation dosage coupled with the fact that he smokes. And what it does is to start out run the radiation dosage, don't you see? So Ron said that nicotine, the reason when you smoke cigarettes and you get a nicotine flush is it's actually running out radiation. But at the time, there was these, I put in this one 1950s ad, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. More doctors smoke Camels. So there were actually doctors and there was dentists recommending certain cigarettes. And they were trying to suggest, well, if a doctor smokes, it must be healthy. And then earlier, something maybe L. Ron Hubbard would have grown up with when he was a lad. These are cigarettes de joy cigarettes. They cure asthma. Joy cigarettes afford immediate relief in cases of asthma, wheezing, and winter cough. And little perseverance will affect a permanent cure. Universally recommended by the most eminent physicians and medical authors, agreeable to use, certain in their effects and harmless in their action, they may be safely smoked by ladies and children. Alchemists and Stores, box 35, blah, blah, blah. So, back in the day, Hubbard was influenced by advertising, obviously, that cigarettes were good to smoke. But also, I've known people, actually, I know someone who said, more than one person who said that smoking helped their asthma. When they felt their chest tightening up, they would light up a cigarette. So this is sort of some context I wanted to add. And the doctor smoking, that would, if you were in the doctor's waiting room and then the doctor comes in, you get in the office and she lights up a cigarette. Like, say you're going to see your doctor and she comes in smoking. Oh, she said, "Oh no, it's perfect. It's perfect. It'll cure your asthma and run out radiation." You would run. It would actually be a Scientologist doctor. So, yeah, this is one of the strange things that people should know about. And Hubbard is attacking societies in England that were against smoking. Hubbard said that smoking wouldn't hurt you because you had OT powers. So there you go. And I wonder, this is a familiar one, but it's worth mentioning in the weirdness collection. Challenge the argument, not the person. Please keep it civil. Yes, the trolls have been out and they can go F off, because go get your own channels. You know, the trolls, they don't get their own channels. Many of them don't. And then they're just like, they're parasites. They're parasites. They come onto other channels. Maybe BTs with keyboards. Wayne says, for a camera, Jeff, get a Razer Coyote. Even the inexpensive ones are good. Well, thank you. I will take you up on that, because I have been researching cameras. And I'm glad my mod is here knocking out the trolls. And Patrick, are we having trollery? I'm glad you're blocking it, because I don't want it, you know. Don't like trolls. But it's, you know, it just goes with it. It's like dog shit in the park, you know. That's what trolls are to me. Dog shit in the park. Hate to be blunt, but that's what they are. So you just kind of step over them and scoop them up and toss them into the nearest trash bin, ban them, and there you go. Don't know if it's true, Psych on the Rocks states. Don't know if it's true, but I've heard that cigarette smokers intake more oxygen. I'm a smoker, so I've just wondered ever since I heard it. I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm the last one to opine on it. Don't know. If we have, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house to answer this question? You know, when you see a smoker, they have all the broken capillaries in their nose. That's because the products in cigarettes scavenge oxygen. So maybe you have to take in more oxygen when you smoke to offset the scavenging. And you should quit, please. We want to have you around a long time. You have the nicotine habit. Let me see. Okay. Let me see if I can help you. Hold on. Okay. Where is it? Okay. I got my Bible. Okay, folks, take out your Bible. Get your Bible. Get your Holy Bible, King James Version, King James Version, 1611. And we're going to pray for Miss Sack on the Rocks to deliver her from the demon on nicotine. That's what went on in my Pentecostal church. We're going to pray for this young lady. She got a demon on nicotine. So when did you start smoking? Was it when you were a teenager playing with Ouija boards? I wonder, but I do hope. So I don't know. That's a good question. I think deep breathing would work better than smoking. Yes, I do too. And I'm not picking. I was making a joke, Psych on the Rocks. But we used to, in Christian demonology, at least in the Pentecostal variant of Christianity I was in, if you had any problem like drinking, smoking, masturbation, anything that was viewed as a sin, it would be attributed to a demon. You had a demon of whatever, lust, gluttony, alcohol. You could have a spirit, you know, a spirit of Satanism, but you would be possessed by a spirit who would want to fulfill its particular lust through you. So this demon of nicotine, because it does not have a physical body, it would possess you so it could smoke and enjoy cigarettes through you and discard you when you're old and spent and go on to another smoker. That's kind of, and we're going to get to some demonic possession here in our presentation. So, but you know, I don't have anything on smoking. If you want to smoke or vape, free country, please, I'm not going to get in your way. I'm not, I hope it's not good for you. That's medically proven, but I don't, if you want to smoke, you take on the risks. And all I have is a book of Sadavakis. Oh, the book of Sadavakis. So without your Bible, I don't know. I don't know if there's hope for you. What is I have to look that up now. The book of Sadavakis. Now I'm going to have to look that up after the show. And can you put a reference up, Psych? I'd really like to look at that. I always love looking at something new. I haven't heard of that. That's why I love interacting with my audience. Cigarettes leave tar in your lungs, so you are breathing less oxygen. And so, okay, so kind of like the, okay, well, we're not making about smoking, but I thought cowboys like smoky old pool rooms. Well, maybe some cowboys do, but not at all. Not all cowboys smoke. I mean, the Marlboro man died of lung cancer. I thought the red nose and broken capillaries were due to the demon alcohol. Maybe some of them are, but as I understood, because cigarettes scavenge oxygen, well, maybe smoking and the demon alcohol, maybe the demons of smoking alcohol go together. Like I said, I don't know the exact mechanism, not being a doctor, but that's what I thought it was from. But spider veins in the nose, I don't know. This is why we need a doctor. It's like everything. We all have different body constitutions, I guess, all in moderation too. Well, yeah, because you get people who live to be, old age and they smoke, never heard of them. Now, it killed a lot of my family member, my aunts and uncles. Smoking killed them young, and they were all heavy smokers. So to me, it was terrifying, terrifying. I knew the lady whose brother was the Marlboro man. He died of cancer. Well, was it lung cancer? Can someone look up what I thought the Marlboro man died of lung cancer, and before he died, he sued. So if somebody wants to Google it, I'd like to know cause of death, Marlboro man. So someone get on the Google Sativicus. Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you. I appreciate you posting that. That's why I read Dianetics. My eyesight is terrible. Dianetics didn't help. When growing up, for those of you who are older in my era, there was a saying that masturbation would lead to blindness. It would lead to eye trouble. That masturbation would lead to eye trouble. And so there was a view that kids that wore glasses, yeah, they were practicing this secret sin. I didn't need glasses. So it was viewed that if you were constitutionally weak, you were draining your, if you were a girl or a boy and teenager, practicing the secret sin is what my pastor called it, the secret sin. And you were admonished to sleep with your hands above your covers, never be alone, just run into the shower and run out. So a lot of stuff could happen. But so there was a joke when I was growing up that if masturbation, could cause eye trouble, I'll just do it till I need glasses. That was a joke that went around, and the teachers didn't think it was funny. Definitely gives you lip wrinkles. Well, so can lying in the gutter with a rat near your crotch. All that water. Oh, I can't take that call. Let me see here. I can't call. Hold on. Oh, I wanted to get some news. I'm waiting for some news, but I can't take the call. Yeah, there's all kinds of. Okay, so Eric Lawson, who played the Marlboro Man in the 1970s, died of respiratory failure due to COPD at age 72 on January 10, 2014 in San Luis Obispo. Thank you for posting that. Thank you for posting that, early riser. Well, he died right near where L. Ron Hubbard died. So do heavy smokers die in San Luis Obispo at a rate exceeding that of other centers? I don't know. But thank you for posting that. He and the entire cast and crew of one of his movies also tracked into the desert to catch an above-ground nuclear weapons test. Yeah, you're going to go. There actually used to be a tourist industry where you could go to Vegas hotels and they would bus you out to watch the nuclear tests. My red nose and broken capillaries are from boxing. Well, yeah, if you take shots to the face, at least 4 Marlboro men have died of. I didn't know there was more than one Marlboro man. It's like Ronald McDonald. There's been several Marlboro men. One of I in my 20s, I dated a woman who had been married to one of the original Ronald McDonalds. Her ex was Ronald McDonald. So that's just a little, you know, thing I have. I dated someone who so Wayne McLaren died of lung cancer in 1992 at age 51. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you. Let's get back onto this. So yeah, smoke. And like I said, I don't smoke or not smoke, drink. I'm a civil libertarian. So, but that was very much the view in that era. And the tobacco companies, of course, spent untold fortunes to try to propagate the lie that smoking was not addictive. But that's Hubbard's context, is that not smoking enough causes lung cancer. Now, this is a really bizarre, twisted thing, and it shows how dangerous Scientology can be in its quackery. Hubbard wrote, quote, leukemia is evidently psychosomatic in origin. At least 8 cases of leukemia had been treated successfully by Dianetics after medicine had traditionally given up. The source of leukemia has been reported to be an engram containing the phrase, "It turns my blood to water," unquote. This sort of goes to Hubbard believing that certain word phrases, combinations could put a curse on you or an implant. And in this case, Dr. Hubbard said that he's successfully had cured 8 cases of leukemia by identifying the phrase, the engram, "It turns my blood to water." And if you had that spoken in a moment of pain and unconsciousness, which is when an engram occurs in Dianetics theory, that would have power. And so if you were in a moment of pain and unconsciousness and it was said, "It turns my blood to water," you would get leukemia. Utterly absurd. Now, this is L. Ron Hubbard from the Old Man's Case book, Journal of Scientology. These are like Scientology home remedies, this is just the most effed up book to read. But at the same time, there were patent medicines. And so I'm giving some context to help you inform maybe what Hubbard has been reading, because he was sort of a cultural magpie who would just take stuff and read it and make himself sound like an expert. But there was a Dr. Chamley's cancer specific. And this cancer specific, it would say, purifies the blood and removes all cancer virus from the system. It will prevent the return of cancer if taken freely for 3 or 4 months after the cancer is removed. We will not be responsible if cancer should come in another place unless at least 3 bottles have been taken. It is the only remedy that has ever been discovered to cure cancer in the blood, which is basically leukemia. This is tragic. Leukemia is a horrific disease I would never wish on anybody. But Hubbard was holding out to people the promise that Dianetics and Scientology could cure leukemia. But there were also other quacks aside from Hubbard, like this Dr. Chomley, claiming that he could cure cancer, blood cancer, but you had to take it. But what's interesting here that it says in the ad, we will not be responsible if cancer should come in another place unless at least 3 bottles have been taken. So what are they going to cover your medical expenses if your cancer goes into remission from this quack medicine and then you get it again, but you've taken at least 3 bottles? See, this is why we had to have such strict advertising laws. The dose for Dr. Chomley was a teaspoon in water before and after meals. Or in Hubbard's dosage was, give us all your money and we'll audit you on the engram. When on the whole track did you hear the phrase, "It turns my blood to water"? And if we could identify, date locate that moment and run through it, then leukemia will go away. Oh my God, this is just make sure blood boil when you hear this stuff. Hey, is Poe on the go in the house? Howdy, 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 Chief Poe. Glad to have you here. Good live stream last night we had with Sir Crepitus, Chad Clearwater Chad, who's in the house, who got in early. Hi, Clearwater Chad. Hi, Clearwater Chad. Did you do your community service today, Clearwater Chad? I know you had to do a whole bunch for that indiscretion. Yup, lurking with an intent to loom, which is, of course, a misdemeanor in this municipality, Chief. Lurking with intent to loom. So I hope you're not intending to loom. I hope you're merely lurking. Yeah, it was a great live. I urge you, like, it's on Poe's channel. I didn't broadcast it from my channel. I don't think I did. But yeah, I did it with Sir Crobitus Poe, and we talked about a lot of technical issues. So that was a great live. And thank you. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed Poe and Sir Crobitus and Chad having me on. And we're going to do another one. Saturday, we're fixing to do another one, like a part 2. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary Rivers. Snake oil salesman. Yes, that began in the Old West. Snake oil. The essence of snake would cure a lot of what ails you. So now we move on. Now, I wanted to say, okay, now, so let me go back, set this slide up. Hubbard said that the curse that caused cancer was the phrase, "It turns my blood to water." Now, there's no known medical disease that will turn blood to water. However, in the Bible, one of the plagues that God inflicted upon Egypt was to turn water to blood. Water to blood. So that's been done by Yahweh, blood, water to blood, but never blood to water. That doesn't happen in the literature, any of the spiritual literature. So this next thing, oh man, I have the actual Hubbard talking about this, and StreamYard has taken it away. Damn them to hell. Anyway, I had a really nice animation of the Van Allen radiation belt, which surrounds the Earth. So Hubbard writes, he says, I was up in the Van Allen belt. This is factual. And I don't know why they're scared of the Van Allen radiation belt, because it's simply hot. You'd be surprised how warm space is. And I was up there watching the sunrise. So he said that in the St. Hills special briefing course. And he goes on to say that he was up there in the Van Allen radiation belt looking at Nova Scotia and some other places. And then he went through a change of process. He never said process. He was Anglophile. So he said, and I went through a change of process. It was quite strange. So L. Ron Hubbard claimed that he would leave his body at will, and he would go up to the Van Allen radiation belt. And if you're a Thetan, would you feel temperature? Would you? Would you have golden discs in front of your eyes if you were a spirit? So he said space is quite hot, and he was in the Van Allen radiation belt. I've created and Otita is great, my satire blog. I've created the Van Allen radiation belt org, VARBO, VARBO, Van Allen radiation belt org. I think that's good. But I had a picture, an animated picture here of, now this is something here I wanted I checked if space was hot. And the temperature of the Van Allen radiation belt can vary from 2,000 to 20,000 Kelvin, which is equal to 3,500 to 35,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's warm, and it was known way back then, and Hubbard picked this up. So he just kind of repeats it, because the Van Allen radiation belt was discovered by a scientist, a real scientist named Van Allen, and it was measured, the temperature. So Hubbard probably read somewhere that that region of around the Earth is hot. But these are beautiful diagrams of these charged, a region of charged particles, and they have a protective function on the Earth. But the flat earthers, I just wanted to put an aside, the flat earthers believe the moon landings could not have happened because the radiation in the Van Allen radiation belt is so high that it would kill you. And then someone at NASA said we have to solve the problem, of radiation. So that's like when Apollo, I think what does it accelerate to escape Earth? 19,500 miles plus 21,000 miles, but it accelerates so fast through the Van Allen radiation belts, at least 19.5, I think, is escape velocity. Someone can add that. And so you're only through in the Van Allen radiation belts a very short period of time. The bigger problem is the radiation when you get out into deep, into uh, space between here and Mars, say. Then you have other problems with shielding. Julie B. Oops, sorry, late. Oh, hi, Julie. Always glad to have you here. Better late than never. So, oh yes, please don't forget to hug and like the subscribe buttons, everybody. And at this point, I'm going to tell you, not liking and subscribing will cause bad things to happen. If you don't like and subscribe to my channel, bad things can happen. And I'm not sure what could happen. The bad thing is I'll be sad. You don't want me sad. Please like and subscribe. I'm almost at 6,000 subscribers. I only need 900 more. So that's a personal goal of having 6,000 subscribers. It's a humble number. It's such a humble number compared to others. So maybe I'll make pancakes. I'll do a cooking show and make special pancakes, special cowboy pancakes or something. I'll do something when I hit 6. I'll give out a prize. I'm not sure what I'll give out to, but I'll give a prize at random. Maybe a copy of David Miscavige's favorite book, Alien Agenda by Jim Marrs. David Miscavige had everyone at the base read this when it came out around 2006. Alien Agenda. So the reason I'm talking about some of the themes of the weirdness with the weirdnesses is if no kidding, pancakes. Okay, so Hubbard was up in the Van Allen radiation belt where it was hot because he had read in magazines that it's hot. So he, of course, had to put himself in the Van Allen radiation belts. Conversely, the flat earthers say they're too dangerous. They're just too dangerous. They also say that the moon's, like 200 miles away. Lately, I've been researching flat earthers, just listening to their videos on my walk at night with Sebastian. Like, what are they talking about? You have that book. I do too. It's an interesting book to read. And of course, the author, Jim Marrs, was later shilling for Scientology at the end of his life. He showed up at the Writers of the Future contest hosted by Author Services International. So maybe it had to be 3 bottles to get a fatal arsenic dose into you. You wouldn't die of cancer that way. Okay, I lost context of that, but okay. The next thing, now this has to do with spirit possession. So Hubbard is talking about, I'm not going to read it like Hubbard, but he says, quote, a thetan can go over and take possession of a body. Well, in Christianity, that would be called demonic possession. So that would make a thetan demonic who took over possession of another's body without permission. But Hubbard said, a thetan can go over and take possession of the body of, let's say we want to influence the premier of Buckwapistan. Now that's Hubbard's racism. That's really, really, 1950s racism where you would call countries and other lands these names like Buckwapistan. That's very racist. So we meaning a thetan, boot this thetan out and make this thetan go over and knock out the thetan and the wife of the premier of Buckwapistan. But he's basically saying you could take over bodies as Scientologists. You could take over bodies as a thetan and thereby influence politics. He's basically saying, as Scientologists, he's advocating we should take over the bodies of others to influence the outcome of politics in our favor. This is in a really, really book called The Role of Earth, November 52, the Research and Discovery volumes. And that you can find if you do some digging. Hi, Pam. Welcome. We'll watch the beginning after live ends. Okay, thank you. So Hubbard is actually advocating a malicious intent for Scientologists to take over the bodies of others to affect outcomes. And you can read this. I'm not going to read through it. But it's a really bizarre thing that he's advocating spirit possession. I put up Terence Palmer's book, The Science of Spirit Possession, second edition. It's actually, if you like esotericism, it's interesting to read. Detective Aludo's backup. Mr. Augustine, I missed you. I have too, Detective. I missed you because we had a case we could have used you on. It was quite intense. It was a case of missing OT materials. No, particularly. But glad to see you here. Yeah, exactly. OT-12. Treat other bodies as puppets. I think it's something like that, Patrick. I really do. I think OT9 and 10 don't exist, but I'm sure at some point, because I've heard Scientologists talk about skipping birth, childhood, and jumping into the body of someone who's 17 and being who they know now. I actually heard them talking about taking over bodies. Is it like demonic spirit possession, just leaving this old sick body they have and then just taking over a 17-year-old, knowing what they know now, which is malicious as hell. That's not respecting anyone's sovereignty. Now, this fellow here, a British banker, I just pulled it off Google, but this you can freeze and read. I'm just going to summarize it. But one of the strangest things Hubbard is saying is that Scientology's enemies on this planet are 12 British bankers. They're the members of the Bank of England and higher financial circles. They own the newspapers, and they are oddly directors in all the mental health groups in the world. And it says they have fantastically corrupt backgrounds, illegitimate children, government graft, a very unsavory lot. He calls them pedos in another in another place. He calls them pedos, and so basically, he said that they're going to control the supply of gold on the planet, and this is where you can see in the current conspiracy theories. This really resonates with a lot of things that goes on Infowars, survivalists, sovereign citizens. Hubbard was in the same fertile soil of conspiracy theory, that there's a goal by some undisclosed Illuminati, in his case British bankers, to take over the world. However, Hubbard believed, he had a variation on it, a Scientology themed variation on the idea of an Illuminati takeover of the planet, by saying Scientology posed such a danger to humanity that the British bankers who were in charge of mental health in the newspapers were out to destroy Scientology. And so I wanted to show you this is why Scientologists as a group are conspiracy minded. They're very conspiracy minded. They buy into it in a big way. This is why Alien Agenda really appealed to, the cover came up. This is why Alien Agenda really appealed to David Miscavige's little pea brain, because Scientologists do believe that there's a global conspiracy to take out Scientology because it's the only thing that can save the planet, and therefore the enslavers, as they call them, Scientology has to expose the enslavers. And so Hubbard really went into an elaborate theory, and they were going to control things. And what they were going to use is mental health or psychiatry to lock people up. And if you gave them any opposition, they were going to get you lobotomized, give you a lobotomy or electroshock. And that's how they're going to control you. And this is where the weird thing David Miscavige is involved in. L. Ron Hubbard claimed that in the 50s there was a Siberia bill. You can look it up. Hubbard didn't understand what it was, but he claims that they were going to do 1 million acres up in Alaska, and all the troublemakers were going to be sent up there. And even though FEMA did not exist at the time, this is a FEMA camp mentality that if you don't take the jab, if you remember during the height of the pandemic, if you didn't take the shot, you were going to go be sent to a FEMA camp. If you wouldn't take the injection that had all of the nano GPS devices in it. So again, Hubbard, I wanted to show you these strange things. Hubbard was in some ways the granddaddy of the more modern conspiracies. And this is why some of the conspiracists will read Scientology. They do agree with L. Ron Hubbard's assessment of the Earth as a prison planet. And that's why there are some interesting connections where you see L. Ron Hubbard quoted, but in terms of Earth being a prison planet, he was not the first to say that by any means, but he was probably the biggest writer to say it in sci-fi genre. And he also said it as Scientology, as the founder of Scientology, that Earth is a prison planet. It's a dumping ground. That let's labor on this a little bit. L. Ron Hubbard said that Earth has long been a dumping ground. And he said that other planets in this local sector of the galaxy, he said galaxy, not galaxy, that all their troublemakers and political dissidents were brought to Earth and dumped here. Hubbard also said that the dinosaurs, dinosaurs, other creatures, especially in Africa, giraffes, rhinoceros, all the exotic animals in Africa were brought here from other planets. And Africa at one time was like a tourist destination where you could go on wildlife safaris from all the animals brought from other planets. He didn't understand evolution. He didn't believe in evolution. So he believes Earth is a prison planet, but yet he believes they're going to put up a wild animal park for all the prisoners on the prison planet. It starts to get weird, but yeah, thank you. Yeah, mental health trust, and yeah, it does, and that's why I'm urging you to read it. Earth, T-Jack, the Australia of the galaxy. That's funny. That's funny. So Hubbard has quite a lot of conspiracy, high-level conspiracy concerning the galaxy, the fate of the entire universe. Hubbard said the agonized fate of every man, woman, and child on Earth depends upon what you do now with Scientology, and for the next trillion years. And so Hubbard was looking at the fate of the galaxies, British bankers, social engineering, and where meanwhile David Miscavige was afraid of being buggered. It was a joke. Nobody's going to do that, Kind of it shows you like a band with Hubbard, at least as a conspiracist, was bigger than Miscavige, who that's an interesting juxtaposition of elements. David Miscavige's fear of that particular act, which would be illegal and criminal. No one's going to do it. It was a joke, but he had to mention a deposition, whereas Hubbard has a bigger scale about the psychs. Now, one of the few, I think this is the only television interview Miscavige did. It's posted online. Ted Koppel went in for this interview with Miscavige when he was just a wee cult leader taking over, I think, right after tax exemption. And David Miscavige in this interview reiterates that there was a plan in 55. And this is a great interview. If you haven't watched it, it's on Aaron Smith Levin's channel. It's at a lot of other places. If you have not watched the Ted Koppel, David Miscavige interview from the 90s, this is really fascinating to watch Miscavige, because this is like his big debut on cameras. It's the only one he did. And he swears up and down that, now, if you look at paragraph 3 on this, he said nobody's ever heard about it, this Siberia commitment bill with the FEMA camps. Nobody's ever heard about it. Let's go back to paragraph 3. Nobody's ever heard about it. That's in no small part thanks to the Church of Scientology. His grammar is bad there. If nobody's heard about it thanks to the Church of Scientology, that means he's covering it up. He should have said, thanks to the Church of Scientology, people are hearing about it. But because David Miscavige, leader of Scientology, dropped out of high school at age 16, he doesn't get the sentence right, so it comes across. And then David Miscavige told Ted Koppel that the bill was killed in Congress. And it says, I must say, though, Miscavige says, that when the bill was killed in Congress, the war was on with psychiatry, where they declared war on us, Scientology, And I want you to understand something, Ted. David Miscavige says, quote, last paragraph, it was a major, major, major flap for the psychiatrists when it got voted down because the slogan around the country began Siberia, USA. And it was really the first time that psychiatry had been denigrated publicly, that they weren't the science they had been promoting themselves to be. So this is where David Miscavige is he shows his batshit crazy. And he did this, I think, 10 or 12 years before Tom Cruise goes batshit crazy on psychiatry on Matt Lauer. So you can see, if we talk Scientology, the earlier similar, going early on the chain. Aaron Hubbard goes attack psychiatry. Next link is David Miscavige on Ted Koppel. And then we see Tom Cruise. So you can see the causality. The Buddhists would say the dependent chain of causality begins with Hubbard. So anyway, he said that because psychiatry got so mad, they were denigrated, humiliated, they had to attack psychiatry. And then David Miscavige, repeating Hubbard verbatim, says, quote, and then they took it upon themselves, they being psychiatry, to start dealing with anyone who would oppose them. They definitely saw Dianetics and Scientology as opposing them, not only in terms of their brutal treatments such as electric shock and prefrontal lobotomy, which are specific things that we're against, but also for the fact of the people that were going to Dianetics and Scientology and not there. It's a little bit twisted words, but Miscavige claimed that psychiatry was mad because so many people were going to Dianetics and Scientology instead of psychiatry. This is bullshit. But this is just what he does. Like he's trying to convince Ted Koppel, and the interview's fascinating to watch because Ted Koppel's not buying any of it. And his intellectual horsepower is, light years greater. I mean, Miscavige, is he an intellectual? No. Is he a thug? Yes. Can he be criminally smart? Yeah. So, thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. Thank you. So, anyway, that's David Miscavige. These are the crazy things, but they show the conspiratorial nature of the Church of Scientology. Miscavige's revulsion at the thought of the 1-1 Club shows part of his psyche. And these are how over time, you can do an analytical psychological profile of David Miscavige. You can actually create a profile. And I worked on that. Yes, and I was going to quote, I think it was Groucho Marx, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. Indeed. So I was just thinking of that. Great minds think alike. Miscavige without Dan Sherman was lost. Yeah, but you know what happened? I think because his last speech sounded very Sherman-esque, I think they fed all the Danny Sherman written speeches into AI. And so the AI, which is capable of hallucinating, by the way. AI has hallucinated fictitious stuff. You should read about AI hallucinations. That has to do with AI can hallucinate. And one of the big AI scientists has admitted that AI has hallucinations. That's an interesting topic we should work on. I'd like to do a show. That's why I want to start another channel to just get bigger, go outside of Scientology. Now, what really happened in truth, the Food and Drug Administration did raid the Church of Scientology in 1958. And they did it because, now let me finish this quote because this is really bizarre. So David Miscavige continues with Ted Koppel, quote, they went to the Food and Drug Administration, that means the psychiatrists. They went to the American Medical Association. They arranged an informant to go into our headquarters here in Washington, D.C. and infiltrate the organization over the next 5 years. Every time Miscavige always insists that people are infiltrating Scientology. Well, let me tell you, Scientology is infiltrating everybody. So the overt doth speak loudly in accusation, as Hubbard said. And then Miscavige continues, paragraph 2. They did then raid the church. Again, you need some grammar and composition. Then raid the church. I am talking This is the APA, AMA, Food and Drug Administration. These people were all coordinated doing these activities, and it went on for 5 years, Ted. And you have to understand, we only found out this recently. Then they proceeded to raid our church. So, the Snow White raid, because of the horrendous crimes, the theft of 100,000 government documents. Really, this was a domestic terrorism, breaking and entering, a whole bunch of crimes. Miscavige is trying to link it to the FDA raid, so you can see the motif in the bizarre things. And this is not the funny stuff. This is the real surreal cult stuff. One reason the FDA raided him. Now look at the bottom paragraph I've highlighted in goldenrod. David Miscavige told Ted Koppel this, quote, "Now the following takes place. They killed one of our executive directors," unquote. That is on the David Miscavige interview with Ted Koppel on Nightline, February 14, 1992. Miscavige actually made an allegation that the Sykes, this cabal of people against Scientology, killed one of their executive directors. He doesn't name what executive director was killed. In my search, I can't find an executive director that was killed, because L. Ron Hubbard was executive director through 67. He resigned, and I looked at all the EDs. I could not find an executive director that was murdered. If you can, let me know. But he actually makes this allegation without naming a name. They should have given the ED's name. That's executive director. So Miscavige blames Snow White, the FBI raid, on psychiatry wanting to take over Scientology, not on Scientology's enormous criminality, wiretapping, burglaries, theft of documents, conspiracy, obstruction, hiding Michael Meisner, kidnapping him for 14 months before he escaped and called to a bowling alley. So this is the craziness, Now, what really happened in the 1950s, this is actually from AI. I pulled it up to see how good it is. So this quote's not my writing. This first paragraph in white text is AI. It's amazing. Okay, quote. In the 1950s, L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, promoted dianesin as a vitamin compound that could protect against radiation poisoning, cure cancer, and treat sunburn. Dianesin was a mixture of iron, vitamin C, and B vitamins, including large amounts of niacin. Hubbard recommended taking it daily with milk and chocolate. In 1963, the FDA raided the Washington Founding Church of Scientology and seized and destroyed 21,000 tablets of dianesin. So what was really going on is that psychiatry wasn't furious that Scientology had defeated the Siberia bill. What happened is L. Ron Hubbard was selling quack medicine, saying that it could cure radiation poisoning if the Soviets launched. And I mean, that I grew up in that era. That was, I grew up through 13, 14 years old, and the duck and cover drills. That was a reality for me in America. The air raid sirens last Friday of every month at 10 a.m., duck and cover with air raid sirens. So I grew up there. I knew the existential, I know the terror of like the Russians could launch 20,000 nukes. I remember first grade and the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I remember the terror. So I can relate existentially to having lived through that. And I remember the adults were terrified as well. The idea that you could, maybe that's why boomers are the way they are. We grew up as fatalists, that if there's 20,000 nukes are going to be launched by both sides, we're fucked. So, maybe there's some of the hedonism and recklessness. I don't know. But a lot of people went into religion, conversely. But it had an effect. But Hubbard was selling a medicine, and he said, if you have dianesin. So the reason the FDA raided was to stop him from selling this BS snake oil. They destroyed the tablets. They seized the e-meters. The court case on the e-meter, Scientology had to agree, and I think it was Judge Gazelle, to label the e-meter saying in and of itself, the e-meter does nothing. It cannot diagnose anything. It can't do anything. It's strictly for Scientology religious counseling. So basically, the cultural reference I want to give you. I pulled this off of Amazon today. This ThyroShield potassium iodide tablets. It says made in USA, emergency use only. They put that tag on it. Now, this is the same thing as dianazine. It's selling to fearful people who might think Putin's going to launch nukes on the US. And these are nuclear fallout pills. And you're supposed to be able to buy this. And there's plenty of products like it scattered across. So Hubbard's created a term called the dangerous environment racket. And he said that the psychs were trying to run the dangerous environment racket, and other people were trying to run the dangerous environment racket scam on you, a racket being a scam. And yet he was running the dangerous environment racket. People nowadays are selling these because what's going on in Ukraine, and Putin's saying if the West crosses a red line, he will launch. So this tension is going up, and people are selling iodide tablets. But you know, you get a 100 megaton bomb parked on, if you live in a major city, you get 50, 100 megatons dropped. That iodine's not going to help you. So, yeah, this is like the same thing, Pam. If you had a big, so that's why Hubbard got raided in 58, because he was promising he could cure, he could protect you against radiation poisoning, cure cancer, not take care, but cure it, and treat sunburn. And so that's why he was selling dianazine, named after his daughter Diana. And that's why the FDA raided him. And they're saying 63 here. Yeah, I think it is 63. I think I may have misspoken, said 58. Fuzzy pink handcuffs. Hello, Jeffrey. Declared Dave loves suppressive. Sherry sent me. Oh, hi. Thank you. Oh, hi. Thank you for hitting the like button. That's good karma for me and you. And if you hit the like and subscribe button, you will be happy with you, and I will be happy with you. That's an inside joke. By the way, who's wearing rich masculine corduroy tonight? I didn't get the slide up. I wanted to get it, and at the last minute I forgot. So L. Ron Hubbard was doing things that are going on now, selling to the dangerous environment racket, manufacturing threats from the government. And he had a FEMA camp, but he just said it was Siberia. This is another survival shield product that Alex Jones is selling, who's having to sell InfoWars due to the horrific Sandy Hook thing. But if you read I just want to read this to you to show how quacks use language. And it says, derived from ancient sea salts found more than 7,000 feet below the Earth's surface, the evolution of survival shield is here and much stronger than our original formula. Okay, second paragraph. Feel the relief and strength of the next step in proprietary nascent iodine, developed using our thermodynamic pressure-sensitive high-energy sound pulse nanoemulsion technology. That's bullshit. I don't even know what that means. I might use it in one of my comedy bits. Thermodynamic pressure-sensitive high-energy sound pulse nanoemulsion now brings you more richer and more masculine corduroy. So Hubbard was trafficking the same bullshit we see nowadays going on. Sorry, no corduroy for me today. Yeah, you get tired of having your thighs chafed. I understand. I wear corduroy underpants to save me from radiation and ex-husbands that are my crush. Good for you. And maybe possibly trouble, you could reinforce them with survival shield or potassium iodide, just to make belt and suspenders kind of thing. Yep, I don't want to get started on that, but anyway, so now Hubbard attacked Islam, and this is the Kaaba, of course, in Mecca. And Hubbard actually attacked Islam in 1952. And he is saying there's an incident called this is Hubbard, quote, there is an incident called the Emanator, by the way. And this thing, by the way, is, by the way, the source of the Mohammedan lodestone that they have hanging down there. That's what's called the black stone. So he's denigrating Islam. He's blaspheming Islam. And I think the Nation of Islam should take note of this, and as all Muslims should. Scientology leader L. Ron Hubbard denigrated the black stone. So he said that he called it the Mohammedan lodestone. It's the black stone, revered by the Muslims as being around at the time of Adam and Eve. He says so. The Mohammedan lodestone they have hanging down there. When Muhammad decided to be a good small town booster in a Kansas, Middle East or something of the sort. By the way, the only reason he mocked that thing up is the trade wasn't good in his hometown. So Hubbard actually said, and this is bizarre, he defamed the entire Islamic religion by saying, because trade was slow where Muhammad lived, he created this black stone as a tourist trap. And this is very insulting. And he goes on, second paragraph, Hubbard continues, quote, "That's right. You can read the life of Muhammad, and he's got a black one, and it's sort of hung between the ceiling and the floor. And I don't know it. Maybe it's called a Casbah or something. Anyway, that thing is a mock-up of the emanator. The emanator is bright, not black." That's in the Philadelphia doctorate course. So Hubbard attacks that, and just so you can see the black stone, it's interesting to read about. This is the black stone. It's ancient. It goes back to the 6th century, I believe. It was they had to rebuild it. Their facility down there was destroyed. I think 685. I was reading. So it's a stone that's fractured, and it's believed to be around from the time of Adam and Eve, and it's encased. It's encased in the Kaaba, that black structure. You can see it there on the left-hand corner low in the picture here. And that's it up close. And so that's a holy relic. And Hubbard denigrates all of Islam as nothing but like a way to create a tourist trap using this thing. So, and he called it the emanator, and it's based on an implant. And that's quite bizarre. And that's just something I wanted to advise. And real Islam, they do not consider the Nation of Islam to be true Muslims. They don't. That's something for a different time when I'd have a guest on who is an expert. But that's a picture of it. So I'm going to leave this. We're going to conclude with this, but so I'm not going to get to all 15. I think I got 10. I forgot. I lost count. But hi, Fat Grammy. Good to see you here. Good to see you here. Yeah, it is word salad. Well, no, sometimes it's word salad leading nowhere. Sometimes it is. Okay, so Hubbard, when his ex-wife was publicly divorcing his second wife he never had, and so that would be Jack Parsons, old girlfriend Sarah Northrup. Hubbard writes, quote, "I was in my apartment on February 23rd, that'd be 1951, about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when the apartment was entered. I was knocked out, had a needle thrust into my heart to give it a jet of air to produce a coronary thrombosis, and was given an electric shock with a 110-volt current. This is all very blurred to me. I had no witnesses, but only one person had another key to that apartment, and that was Sarah, his second wife." He wrote this to the FBI in 51. So he claims, he had escaped. He went down to Havana, Cuba with Richard DeMille to write Science of Survival, and he had kidnapped his daughter. Sarah Northrup publicly is divorcing. It's a big mess in the newspaper. Dianetics found her accused of being basically mentally ill and violent. Now, the thing that's ridiculous about this statement, to actually get a needle into the heart, you have to know a lot of anatomy, below the sternum, what rib to go through, and you got to know how to park a needle, through all the musculature. and through the rib cage, the lining of the rib, the pericardium, and all that anatomy. You have to know what you're doing. You can't indiscriminately just shove a needle into his heart. And that was the idea, that she was going to inject air into his heart and give him coronary thrombosis and kill him. But in addition to that, she shocked him with a 110-volt household current, which means she would have had to take a table lamp, unplug it, cut the cord, plug it back in, and then after she injected the needle in his heart, she would have had to hit him with his electrical cord. Now, what happens if you actually had a needle shoved into your heart? It could kill you, but as a PI, it's like you would have to go to the emergency room. You could get severe infection. You would get inflammation of the lining of your heart at a minimum that would need to be drained. This would be a serious, violent attack. And in Hubbard's autopsy, there was no note of a scar at his sternum. If you had a needle shoved in your heart, that'd be a life-threatening emergency. You would go to the hospital. You would be transported. And you see in some movies where they'll shove adrenaline into someone's heart, having a heart attack. That's an older technology they still use. There's other ways to do it. But the point is, that would be a brutal assault. So that was one of the most bizarre things, that his second wife, and Hubbard was a big guy. He was a big boy. Sarah wasn't so big. So the idea that she would sneak in, we should have to get a big ass syringe that could go through all that anatomy with a big needle. And on top of that, she would have to get a 110-volt cord. And he didn't say where he was electrocuted. But the story is such utter bullshit, but it's typical of the strange things they said. So we begin with David Miscavige's revulsion to the 1-1 club of being buggered. We end with L. Ron Hubbard with a needle in his heart. And this just gives you a slice of when you look at, when people ask me about Scientology, and I was saying that as I was walking last night, and I'm going to do another live tonight because I have a late night crowd who drops in. But when you look at Scientology, I always say, what period of Scientology? Because since it started in 1950 with Dianetics up to 2024 with live streaming, you have to know what period of Scientology you're talking about. It's sort of a moving target, and you can freeze a discrete element in time to give an analysis of it. And what I say about Scientology in 64, or John A. Tack, or any researcher, what happened in the 80s, what the second gens have to say is quite different. So it depends when you were in, what happened to you. The second, third gen brutalized absolutely. There is no consent. And we covered that yesterday in the live stream about that intersection of parental rights. And I gave the example that if you're Jehovah's Witness parent or parents, and you refuse to give your child a blood transfusion, and their child dies, 38 states in the U.S. give you immunity from prosecution for murder, which I don't think should be right. So you have this intersection of parental rights, being born into religion. Children can't consent, but their parents can for them. And should there be a passage of law where you cannot endanger a child's life by consenting as an adult to let them become auditors as young preteens, to have to listen to graphic sexual content, be subjected to child essay and all kinds of things? That gets another thing. So anyway, this gives you a sense of some of Hubbard's personality and how it resonates with some of the things going on today in terms of conspiracy theorists. Hubbard didn't believe in evolution, didn't believe in medicine, and he believed Scientology or even Dianetics could cure cancer. So this sort of gives you an interesting insight into why people like me call it a cult. Because most of what I've shown you is cultic. It's strange. Hubbard claimed he was in the Van Allen radiation belt, and then he condemns all of Islam as nothing but like a tourist trap, sort of like Muhammad, to be a small town booster and drive some tourist traffic in. He created Islam. So this little section, I may do another one because we can do this with layers, and it's pretty interesting to see. Any questions before we go? Yeah. So, do you know who the author of the RPF Insider newsletter is? Yes, I do, and I'll give you a call. I have to go grab my notes. That was the RPF Insider newsletter is an older piece that's really fascinating. There's a bedtime story series, bedtime stories. It's I think it's called Little Davy's Bedtime Stories, and that was done by Matt Pesh and Amy Scobie, 2008. A Little Dickie's Bedtime Stories, I think. Those are mind-boggling, the revelations that Matt and Amy were giving when they were anonymous after they had left. Those are historically important documents. The RPF Insider newsletter is very important. So these, Pat Grammy, these are things I like to collect, archive, study, because like I said, Scientology, it depends what time. 2008 was when the indie movement was starting. There was a lot of leaks from key insiders, from Mike Render to Tom DeVocht, Chuck Beatty, Jeff Hawkins, my wife Karen, Matt and Amy, Clara and Mark. So many people were getting so much valuable data. In the early 90s, you had Arnie Lerma leaking the OT levels, and you had statements from Maura McShane. You had the 77 rate. You had, the measles epidemic on the free ones. So there's so many things you can talk about. You have the chase, we have credit card fraud. So again, this is why the community of people who do research and videos is so valuable, do their blogs, And so yes, I do, and I have to just go look it up in my notes. And maybe it'll be worth. I do hope you do a blog because you're such a good researcher. So there you go. Ayahuasca, maybe so many things that go on. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this presentation because it does give you, I think, a fairly wide sweep of things that are going on in the church. And so I appreciate you dropping by, as always. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So we're going to get the music going on our exit. Let's get the music up. Why isn't it going? We're going to start. There we go. So for the Scientology Money Project on YouTube, part of the extended SPTV network, your host saying goodbye until next time. And have a great evening. I'll probably do a live tonight. And I will put it out and announce it to you. So until next time.